There's a certain irony that the R36S, which had originally copied one of Anbernic's more premium devices, has now got a few copycats of its own. And that's where we end up with the Kinhank K36. At face value, it looks almost identical from the front, although there are a number of hardware changes and a few minor differences in price which may make one more appealing than the other. If you enjoy this content, let me know down in the comments. So the Kinhank K36S then has a very similar display. You're looking at 640 by 480, however this is 500 nits, which on paper sounds nice, although I didn't notice a great difference in quality. Honestly, since the Trim UI brick came out, every screen just pales in comparison. This one has a noticeable gap between the glass and the display, and while it's fine, the color contrast, accuracy and overall look of it, while on a par with the R36S, just doesn't hold up in that regard. Under the hood it came pre-installed with MULEC 4.7, which is a pretty user-friendly interface. It also had 10,000 games pre-installed on a 256GB card, ranging from earlier systems like the NES, some of the arcade emulators, all the way up to Dreamcast, and even PSP. Now in the hand, the R36S didn't feel incredibly impressive. It had a very plasticky feel, a few more sharp edges than I'd like, and while the trigger buttons were ergonomic, we saw improvements from other devices come quite quickly. The Kinhank takes things in a different direction by moulding the back to make it much more ergonomic when you're holding it in the hand. And it wouldn't be a stretch to say that that design language itself might have been acquired from another one. Still, it does the job and it feels much more comfortable when held for prolonged periods. You've got access to an extra expansion card slot that can go up to 256 gigs. You can get around 4 to 6 hours realistically, depending on the system that you're emulating. Obviously things like PSP are going to be a lot more demanding. Once again, we don't have built-in Wi-Fi. You can, however, use a wireless dongle if you'd like to update over the air. People always ask which ones you can use. Honestly, any generic Wi-Fi dongle will work. They are 10 a penny on Amazon. When it comes to price, there's not a great deal in it. The cheapest place is usually somewhere like AliExpress, where they have some crazy deals. The Kinhank K36 is like $22.99, and there are lots of savings over there on all of these devices, but the R36S can usually be had slightly cheaper, maybe £20, £21. For the ergonomic improvements, I would say it's worth going for the Kinhank if the default software actually holds up, which is what we'll look at in the next section. If you don't like that default software, there is a version of ArcOS available for the K36. I did develop quite a soft spot for that, and it's pretty easy to set up if you're interested. Now under the hood, things are very similar. The same 3.5-inch IPS display, although one does claim that 500 nits. We've got a Rockchip RK3326 on both devices and the same Mali G31 MP2. You've also got the same RAM. The battery life can vary on the two devices. Sometimes the R36 has a slightly smaller battery, but the way that you access that is potentially a little easier on the Kinhank, and we can make other comparisons like the sound quality in a minute. The main thing that you're going for really is the design language. Which one do you prefer in that regard? As on paper at least, with the same engine, performance should come down to what software you're using, so let's see out of the box which one actually runs the best. I'll make sure the device name is on the screen just so you can keep a track, as well as the system. So let's go through the actual real-world performance then.
Crazy because I remember playing Zool back in the day and thinking that the graphics were, well, the future, thinking they were absolutely incredible. I mean, it still looks okay, but yeah, there's no music on this version, which is a bit weird. When we test the sound next to each other, you can clearly hear that this is significantly louder, probably due to the speaker on the front, but it's more than that. The speaker on the bottom here is incredibly small, so that's a bit of an issue. And if we turn it up to its full volume as well, it doesn't get close. Now the downside of the R36S getting that loud is you heard some real distortion there. Let's see how it is on this side. Now it certainly doesn't get up to the same volume levels, but in terms of the actual quality of the sound, it's potentially nicer. You have to keep yours about the same level as the other so that it doesn't distort. So yeah, if this one's about the same volume level, it sounds okay, but if you go any higher, it just sounds terrible. They're very like for like in terms of, as we say, performance. It's just that screen is slightly better perhaps on the Kinhank. We've also got a ton of games out of the box on this one. Now obviously I've modified the R36S to have a different operating system than the stock one. So you will see some differences over there. Let's give PSP a try. Well, I kind of know why I don't remember that one. There are a few notable additions on here, like the Pokemon mini games as well as the PSP minis. Final thoughts then, is it worth picking this one up now? Is it the new king? Well, I think if you go for ergonomics, then you could argue that yes it is. It does everything that the R36S does, but it feels significantly better in the hand. It's certainly got a bit of back. It is ever so slightly narrower. It's just a tiny little bit longer, so it's a little tiny bit longer this way. The only other thing to consider with this one is that to get the battery out, you have to take all of these off, and that's a little bit more, well, it's a little bit more work, isn't it really? Whereas the original R36S, you could just pop the battery out, so that is a bit of a shame really. As for quality and feel, much better. Better screws as well. It's using those, I forget the name of them, they're like hex screws, aren't they? The angle of this is better than the first one. The ports, they make sense up there. The downward firing speaker, while it does reduce the volume a little bit, the clarity is there, so I can't really complain too much. And the volume rockers on the side. I like it a lot. If I had to choose between the two, and for what, the sake of £1 difference over here, I'm going over here. Sorry R36. See ya. You go over there. I will pop links down below as well to Kinhank. They provided this device free of charge. If you want to pick one up with the links down below, you might give an affiliate to the channel. I don't even know if I've set that up, but I don't really care. Get it wherever you want. It's up to you. It's more about the device itself, and hopefully this has told you everything you need to know. All right, as I always like to say, don't forget to hit continue.